Hey everyone, welcome back to World Curiosity. Today we'll explore La Rinconada, nestled high in the Peruvian Andes, standing tall at over 5,000 meters above sea level. Known as the highest city on Earth, it's a place of contrasts, breathtaking beauty and harsh realities. Surrounded by snow-capped peaks, it's a town where the pursuit of gold meets the challenges of extreme altitude. La Rinconada is a town at the foot of a majestic Peruvian Andean glacier at 500 meters above sea level. It is an old mining settlement, rich in gold deposits that today has reached a population of about 70,000 inhabitants thanks to the gold fever. It is the highest inhabited center in the world, though it is considered one of the most hellish places on the planet. When the gold deposits were initially discovered, the mine was taken over by a company that had only the men of the village work on it. These men had to possess a high tolerance to the harsh temperatures that drop into tunnels which reach 4 F. Potential workers also had to have a genetic resistance to the poor oxygenation of the air due to the high altitude. These courageous men were in search of gold, tackling a climb of over half an hour every day, breathing rarefied air saturated with poisonous gases such as mercury and cyanide. The living conditions in La Rinconada are terrifying and inhuman. The only source of drinking water in the city comes from lakes contaminated by mercury. There is no waste disposal system and people are forced to live among garbage, without electricity and sewage, among excruciating, nauseating stinks. There are no schools or hospitals and the life expectancy of this population is 35 years, about half that of an average Peruvian citizen. People die slowly, devoured by lung diseases and respiratory infections that over time affect the nervous system, causing deformation, memory loss, paralysis, and death. It is called Devil's Paradise, and was a place illegally governed by criminal gangs and local organizations that do not allow foreign mining companies and had adopted an absurd payment system called cacareo. Workers were paid a salary of zero and worked 30 days straight completely free, and on the 31st day they were asked to dig for 3 hours straight and then remove all mining material. The truly inconceivable thing is that none of these miners were forced to work under these conditions of suffering and degradation. They volunteered in hopes of striking it rich. Fatal accidents in the labyrinth of mines are common, as are lethal brawls. Miners have been robbed or even murdered after selling their gold, their bodies left in mine shafts. Some murder victims have been women and girls lured from larger cities in Peru and Bolivia by human traffickers who confiscated their identity papers and put them to work in La Rinconada's dingy bars and brothels. Most of the mines operating under those contracts are considered informal, meaning they have substandard labor, safety, and environmental conditions, but are allowed by the government to continue operating as long as they register with a program that's aimed at bringing them into compliance with higher standards. The conditions in La Rinconada harm workers' health and poison the Andean landscape, but that hasn't stopped buyers and refiners in the United States, Switzerland, and other countries from purchasing La Rinconada's gold, processing it, and turning it into bullion and brilliant jewelry. By that time, the gold bears no indication of its origin in poorly regulated Peruvian mines. International efforts to fetch better prices for gold from mines that meet higher standards have made no inroads in La Rinconada. The irony of La Rinconada's modern gold rush is not lost on Victor Hugo Pechas, a Peruvian anthropologist who studies unregulated gold mining in Peru and other South American countries. Small-scale mining like that in La Rinconada has always existed in the Andes as a secondary activity. Farmers or ranchers would go to the mines periodically to supplement their farm income. Paca says of a practice that dates to at least the early 19th century in Peru's Puno region, where La Rinconada is located. Miners always complain that the mines are playing out, he says. But there's still gold. If there comes a time when there is less gold, mining will again become a complementary activity for farmers, as it was before. The contractors who operate the informal mines often live outside of La Rinconada, leaving day-to-day operations to a trusted overseer. That person manages laborers who mine the ore with nothing more sophisticated than dynamite and pneumatic drills. Small-scale processing plants crush the ore and mix it with mercury or cyanide to extract gold. Then a chain of brokers buy and sell the gold, and in some cases export it. Labor agreements generally are verbal, with a foreman hiring workers for a week to several months, depending on the gold vein being worked. The laborers may receive food and lodging, but no benefits or wages. Instead, for roughly a day or two a month, they are allowed to work in the mine and keep what they find, a system known as cachorio. If they find nothing, it means they've worked for free. Miners grumble about the system, but no one really wants to change it. It's cheaper for the contractor, and it's easier for a laborer to leave if he decides he's had enough. Many stay, however, lured by the possibility of a lucky strike. Luck comes to miners in dreams and in more insidious ways, says Maria Eugenia Robles Mangoa, a Peruvian-Bolivian anthropologist. When Robles first traveled to La Rinconada in 2016, she found a machista world in which women nonetheless are omnipresent. For the miners, even Mount Ananea is female, she says. They call it a huicha, which means grandmother in Quechua. If a miner is lucky, the legend goes, a female spirit, La Gringa, will visit him in dreams and guide him to a rich ore vein. But La Gringa is considered jealous, and local belief holds that she will not give up her gold if another woman enters the mine. Even now, few women venture into the mountain. There's also a disturbing belief that luck comes to miners who drink heavily and have sex with young women. In La Rinconada, some 2,000 young women, some of them miners, work in bars that double as brothels. When I first saw these girls and the violence they suffer, I felt a combination of rage and desperation, Robles recalls. At the time, she was 27, and all of these women she saw in La Rinconada were younger. Conditions also are harsh for palaqueras, women, often wives of miners, single mothers or widows, who scavenge through piles of waste rock outside the mine entrances, collecting gold-bearing chunks. Although they perform an essential task for the claim holder by clearing away debris, the palaqueras, who inhale rock dust and poisonous fumes as they search for whatever gold they can eke out of the discard pile, are among the most vulnerable workers in the chain. Large amounts of ore often are processed with cyanide to extract the gold, but the smaller amounts gleaned by palaqueras and by miners on their cachareo days usually are crushed with mercury, which binds to the gold, forming a lump of amalgam. This may be done in a tumbler-like drum or with huge rocks in a tool called a kimbalay. The miner or palaquera then takes the amalgamated lump to a buyer who blasts it with a blowtorch to vaporize the mercury, leaving the gold behind. Some gold shops use devices to capture the mercury, but shopkeepers and miners are still exposed to toxic mercury vapor, which also drifts over the glacier above La Rinconada, condensing on the ice and poisoning the drinking water supply. Globally, this kind of gold processing is the top source of anthropogenic mercury in the Earth's atmosphere. By the time gold from informal mines in La Rinconada or other parts of Peru ends up in wedding rings or watches, it bears no traces of the harsh conditions in which it was produced. Some of the gold is sold through legal channels, but to avoid paperwork and taxes, some miners sell theirs on the black market. Black market gold may be laundered, with paperwork to make it appear legal. As long as the papers appear legitimate, exporters may not inspect a mine to see whether it complies with regulations. Eventually, most gold from Peru is exported to refineries abroad, with about 1/3 of exports going to Switzerland, which refines as much as 70% of the world's gold. High gold prices have allowed once modest Peruvian brokers to become top exporters quickly. But pressure from environmental and human rights organizations and several high-profile cases have led to efforts to clean up the supply chain. Those cases include Peruvian customs agents' seizure of a 200-pound shipment bound for Switzerland and arrests in the U.S. of refinery employees on money laundering charges. Cleaning up the supply chain means requiring miners to comply with regulations and enabling buyers to trace the gold to its source and verify the conditions there. La Rinconada, a town shaped by its altitude, its people, and their pursuit of a better life. As we conclude our journey, remember that in the highest city on Earth, resilience and community are the pillars that stand strong. Thank you for joining us on this journey through La Rinconada. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more explorations of unique places around the world. Until next time.